Today on Hearts of Heroes, a 3-alarm fire in a senior living facility leaves dozens of people trapped inside, and first responders have to move quickly to get them out.
It became very personal for a lot of us because there were people that we knew in that building.
And later, a fire department battles one of the largest infernos that they have ever encountered.
We ran out down the stairs and just looked up, and the flames were 25 feet in the air already.
With no time to lose, first responders were doing everything they could to get to those in need.
For firefighters, battling a large apartment complex fire can be one of the most challenging calls. But now, imagine that large complex is a senior living facility where a lot of the people inside can't walk on their own.
Thankfully, the heroic actions of both the fire department and the staff of one Pennsylvania senior home saved dozens of people's lives on that day.
Upper Macungie Township is a small suburb of Allentown, Pennsylvania. With a population of around 20,000, it's small enough to have a neighborly feel, yet close enough to the city to offer modern amenities.
Whether you like the city living, country living, or if you're really into the hustle and bustle, it has lots to offer to a lot of people.
There's a real sense of community in this township, which also runs straight through the Heather Glen Senior Living Facility, especially since many of the people that live in Heather Glen are from Macungie Township.
I know a lot of our residents have roots in the Lehigh Valley and raised their families in it, so it's a wonderful place.
Many of the local first responders also have a very personal connection with the senior facility.
One of my firefighters, his mom's there. One of my neighbors that's a state police officer, his mom's there. One of my other firefighters here at the station, his grandmother's in there.
So when a fire broke out at Heather Glen, it was more than just a routine call.
And it became very personal for a lot of us because there were people that we knew in that building, and we wanted to make sure that everybody made it out.
Residential fires are one of the leading causes of property damage around the country. But being prepared for this kind of catastrophe can help to save both lives and personal belongings.
The staff had prepared for an emergency just like this, and that training would save people's lives in the early morning hours of September 22nd, 2019.
The day of the fire, the building was running smooth. It was operating normal. Residents, they were having activities.
After dinner, the people went back to their rooms for the evening, unaware of the danger, of course, that they were about to face. In the middle of the night, one of the women woke up and spotted a huge wall of flames coming out of the rear of the building. She called 911, and soon after, the alarms started blaring.
Staff immediately knew what to do, started taking action.
When first responders got the call, they knew they had their hands full.
In this situation here, we needed a lot of manpower because we had both a fire and we also had rescue operations, knowing that there were 80+ people in that facility, and a lot of them were non-ambulatory.
Firefighters Jake Gallick, Nick Bosga, and Jake Surface were some of the first to show up. They would not only have to put out the fire, but more importantly, they needed to get people out fast.
I was tasked with setting up a water supply for our tanker, and once I set up a water supply, I left the tanker and started throwing ladders.
Life is the most important thing, and we want to make sure that we do everything we can so that everybody comes out of us unscathed.
As firefighters began the evacuation of the building, Lieutenant Justin Kennybrew climbed to the roof to complete an essential safety task.
We come in and our first objective is to set up the ladders, check the roof out, make sure that we safely vent the fire so it doesn't spread throughout the building.
In many structural fires, firefighters will cut holes in the roof. This is called venting. It allows smoke to escape and also releases dangerous gases that can cause deadly explosions.
Once the roof was vented and the first floor was evacuated, the rescue team had a terrifying realization. There were still people trapped on that second floor, many of them still asleep. Coming up, Firefighters have to rush into the burning fire.
These people were in wheelchairs. These people needed walkers to walk.
But first, this safety tip.
Did you know that elder adults are 2 times as likely to be injured in a fire? So now is the time to consider their safety too.
If someone in your household is hard of hearing, install an alarm that uses a flashing light or vibration to alert. Keep emergency phone numbers and a phone nearby in case you or someone you love is trapped and needs help. And conduct regular fire drills to make sure everyone knows what to do in the event of a disaster.
These small safety steps can do wonders for ensuring a safer future. It's our duty to take care of one another, so make safety preparedness part of your routine today.
In the early morning of September 22nd, 2019, a 3-alarm fire broke out at the Heather Glen Senior Living Facility. Firefighters and first responders quickly began evacuating the first floor, but as the fire spread, they realized there were still a number of people trapped on the second floor.
We're coming out, and we hear there's victims trapped in the second floor, and then our team just got right at it, and we went right back to work.
Firefighters Nick Bosga and Jake Gallick rushed upstairs.
I'd say probably the biggest obstacle was locked doors. So every door needed to be forced before we made entry, which added time.
And then also we had to deal with a lot of people were disoriented because with the fire starting outside, it didn't trip the fire alarms right away. So 90% of the people were still asleep on the second floor.
It was a slow and dangerous process getting everyone out.
These people were in wheelchairs. These people needed walkers to walk. And you pretty much had to have 2 firefighters or 2 EMS to help each one of them out of the facility.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Frank KIMBLE began ladder rescues. That required him to help one woman out the window who was too weak to climb out herself.
She was scared. You know, there was a lot of smoke in the room. She had a lot of water in the room. I had to step to the side so I could jump in to help her get her feet out so my partner, Justin, could carry her down the ladder.
One by one, they meticulously helped each resident to safety. Miraculously, everyone survived.
It was a real sigh of relief. Now we can focus on assuring that the fire's out and making sure that we get people to proper facilities for the rest of their care.
All the residents were safe and accounted for, but once the fire was put out, the building was unlivable. Now they'd have to face that arduous process of rebuilding. Our sponsor, Balfour, were some of the first people on the scene.
I was here within 15 minutes and meeting with the emergency management directors, meeting with the facility directors.
First order of business, clear out debris from the heaps of damage.
They ended up flowing quite a bit of water into the building on the second floor, and then that just infiltrates down into the first floor, and that's why we're removing all the drywall and insulation.
The rebuild would take months, and even though residents were displaced from their homes, the tragedy, as it so often does, welded the community even closer together.
We kept it upbeat. Even though we didn't have our residents in our building and they were placed in other various care homes, we still went to see them.
And the first responders themselves became part of the Heather Glen family.
It wasn't that they just forgot about us after the fire. They kept in touch and they really cared.
Lieutenant Frank KIMBLE had the chance to reunite with one of the people that he saved on her birthday.
Betty, it was her birthday, and we helped her see another birthday. And that's probably the best thing you can get out of this.
4 months after the fire, Heather Glen was up and running and celebrated its grand reopening.
On behalf of Mr. Coase, Mrs. Coase, and Heather Glen staff and residents, we'd like to welcome you to our new home. It's been a little over 4 months since we had our incident, and I can tell you right now, the building is better than ever.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, it's open!
The staff and residents now have a new home, and they'll never forget the selfless acts of the first responders that day.
You realize the police officers, the EMSs, the firefighters, that they're heroes. And then you have a new respect for them because they did something so heroic for us by saving our residents and those staff members that were in that fire. And that we'll be forever grateful for.
Coming up, 2 firefighters find themselves battling a blaze, threatening their own homes.
You could see the glow in the sky, and then that's when I realized it was our building.
When a fire broke out in an apartment complex in suburban Pennsylvania, it turned out to be the worst the Glenmore Fire Department had seen in more than 50 years.
Luckily, 2 of the residents happened to be volunteer firefighters from that very station, and their bravery and quick action saved both homes and, most importantly, lives that morning.
40 miles from Philadelphia, Glenmore sits in the heart of one of Pennsylvania's 3 original counties.
Chester County still has a nice rural character that hosts dog shows and horse events throughout the year, which is a big draw for the community.
You're not far from Philly, like being a bigger city, but you're still kind of tucked away where you're a little in the rural area.
The people of Glenmore pride themselves on being a close-knit community, and that feeling is echoed in the members of the local fire department.
I just love being around the guys and the girls of the company. Just the camaraderie, it really truly is like a family.
For fireman Ross TREGO, it's literally a family tradition.
My grandfather and father were firefighters, so one day I decided I wanted to follow in their footsteps.
Craig and Ross not only work side by side for the fire department, they also happen to live in the same large apartment complex in town. Little did they know that they would have to come to the rescue of their own neighbors and their own homes early one morning in 2019.
Building's on fire! Out of the building!
The night of the fire, we were all here. Monday night, it's our drill night. Jokingly, we all say to one another, we'll see you at the big one.
He had no idea how true those words would be. In just a few hours, he and his fellow crew would be fighting a 2-alarm fire requiring multiple engines and 150 firefighters. As Lieutenant Craig sought and settled in for the night, he was gearing up for a big event the next day.
I'm a high school assistant principal. We had our graduation the next day. I was thinking I was gonna wake up in the morning and go to school and have graduation that night, but things kinda took a turn in middle of the night.
It was 1:45 in the morning and fire alarms started sounding. Craig immediately jumped into action.
I opened the door and I could kind of smell some smoke. So I walked around out front and I looked up and there was just a glow and the fire shooting off that 4th floor balcony.
At the same time, Ross TREGO was also awakened by those alarms.
It happens a lot up there at the apartment, so I didn't think anything of it until I walked outside and Craig yelled that there was a building fire in the complex. You could see the glow in the sky, and then that's when I realized it was our building.
My wife was still inside, so I ran back in and told her, like, this is not just a false alarm, building's on fire, like, we gotta go. I knew I needed to get here to get to the station.
As Craig rushed back to the station, Ross ran upstairs to get his fiancée Miranda out.
As we ran out down the stairs, got outside, and just looked up, and the flames were like probably 25 feet in the air already.
Once Miranda was safe, Craig started assisting other people.
Building's on fire!
You got 4 floors of residents. We need to, work to get everyone out as fast as possible.
This way down these steps, please.
By this time, the fire was starting to rage, and it would need more than just one person to make sure everybody got out alive. Coming up, first responders put their own lives on the line to save those in danger.
We realized that the roof was going to come down soon enough, so then we made our way out of the apartment at that point.
But first, this safety tip.
A famous Roman philosopher once wrote, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all the others."
First responders are called to emergency situations every day and tasked with ensuring the welfare and safety of everyone.
Whether by protection, rescuing people from harm's way, or administering first aid to save lives, our job is to help you and keep you alive.
So be virtuous and share your gratitude with those who give of themselves to make your world better. Be the solution to the greater future and help spread the word of appreciation for our heroic first responders.
In the early morning hours of June 4th, 2019, a disastrous fire broke out in the Renew apartment complex in Glenmore, Pennsylvania. But, as luck would have it, 2 of the residents were trained firefighters. The blaze was engulfing the apartments, and it was going to take a virtual army of first responders to conquer this inferno. Officer J.R. Kane was one of the first to respond.
I got out of my car and ran to the first floor section of the apartment and started banging on doors, making my way up to the next floor where I met 2 other officers from a neighboring department. And we just continued through the apartment, knocking on doors.
Police department! Police department, building's on fire!
Fire Chief Jeff Kimes quickly arrived at the scene and saw all the impending danger.
The building held about 40 units, and when I arrived on location, the fire was coming from the roof and it was spreading rapidly.
The crew certainly had their hands full. They had to try to put out the fire, but first and foremost, get everybody out safely.
Let's go now, 30.
That's what we call organized chaos. Dealing with frantic people, there could be pets that are still in the building that they can't get out.
Chief Kimes was fully aware of the effect that this fire had on 2 of his crew members working that night.
2 of my officers, including my deputy chief, actually lived in the affected building, but immediately that didn't stop them from springing into action and providing safety measures to the residents and making sure everyone was out.
Both Ross and Craig knew, despite their own homes being at risk, the entire team had a job to do.
That's what we prepare for. We prepare for being woken up in the middle of the night and having to go. You don't know what you're getting called to until you actually get there.
Without a doubt, our awesome crew that we had that night didn't second guess it one bit. In they went, they split up, forcing doors, checking apartments.
As firefighters battled the raging blaze, Officer J.R. Kane continued to risk his own life to get people out.
We received a call from our dispatch stating that there was another elderly female on the 4th floor who they weren't sure if she had gotten out. We got her and her dog out, and then we made one more final pass through the apartment, but as we made our way to the 4th floor, we realized that the roof was gonna come down soon enough, so then we made our way out of the apartment at that point.
Yeah, it's coming down, guys.
After hours of fighting the monster fire, it was finally extinguished. And miraculously, everybody made it out safe.
This is probably the largest fire in the history of Ludwig's Corner, and the one thing that I'm proud of the most is that there was not one single injury, not to any firefighter or to any resident that lived in that building.
Even though no one was hurt, sadly, firefighter Craig Sodden and his wife lost their home that night.
Things that we had, developed together and built for 5 years at that point, that was gone.
Despite the loss, this close-knit community came together to support one another.
People came out from all over the area. We're dropping off all kinds of goods for the residents, not only displaced, but making sure that the firefighters were fed. It's just very humbling, the amount of support that we're there to help the community, and there's just as much support back of the community helping us.
Recently, country singer Lee Brice, along with Sheldon Yellen from our sponsor Belfour, had a chance to personally thank the first responders of the Glenmore Fire Department.
Mr. Sheldon Yellen is here tonight, and he's got such a cool thing to do and to say tonight. So I hope it's cool. We invite him out on stage.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you, Chester County. At this time, I'd like you to please join myself and Lee and show an amazing show of gratitude. Chester County's finest, please come on up. On the count of 3, I want to give an amazing thank you to our first responders of Chester County, from all of us to all of you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, first responders of Chester County.
Despite the gratitude of the community, these men and women remain humble in the face of heroism.
I get a little embarrassed by it just because it's just part of the job. I don't see it as going above and beyond. I just see it as what I'm tasked to do.
Ross would be the first one to tell you, no, don't say that. He doesn't want any recognition. To him, he did his job. To have your building burning down and it walk out to it being that bad and keeping his cool, making all the right decisions. He's absolutely a hero.
Structural fires can cause devastating damage to homes and property, not to mention place lives in grave danger.
But in both of these stories, the people in the communities that we just saw know that they owe a deep debt of gratitude to the first responders who put their lives on the line every single day.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.